Well, hello everybody. Welcome here or welcome back, whatever the case may be. I have got on some magical forest music, beautiful flower space. And I'm hoping that's not too loud and that people can hear me. Maybe I should turn that down just a touch. And then I will regret that later, but I will know. Okay. Split the difference of where I was headed. Now, I was thinking today about how certain viewpoints of mine have changed over the years, um, and various things. It's a huge um, topic and conversation that alone. And I thought, well, I'm going to bring it down to one example of something that I was able to identify where I learned to have a different point of view from the one that was ingrained in me, and where my attempts to be open minded come from. I don't normally dislike people. As a default setting, I tend to be inclined to like people individually. As a species, and that is a totally different story and different reasons, and I don't want to get into that because that is not the point of this today. I was thinking about how few people I have an instant repulsion to, or revulsion, repulsion. I'm not sure which of the two. Hopefully, I will look it up when I'm editing, and somewhere over here will be um, the ultimate choice between those two things, or why I was confused by them. Now, there was a person on a street corner that I passed one day who was asking for change. And for whatever reason, I had this instant um, it wasn't really disgust or anything, just an aversion. Didn't care to know them, didn't think very highly of them. And I went on my way without giving it much more thought than that, really. And probably wouldn't have thought of it again if it wasn't for the fact that I routinely passed by the same person in the same circumstances on a regular basis. And they were very identifiable. They always had this cat in the hat on, very identifiable. So people that may know who I'm talking about, and it's okay because I'm the problem in my own story, and the lesson that needed to be learned was mine, and I am very glad that I learned it. For a few years, I would consistently see this person asking for money and not thinking too highly of them. And they were never really an unclean, like a filthy, dirty person, but they were never the most hygienic person. So I'd seen better and worse on both accounts, so that wasn't really where it all came from. But it was through somebody else that knew them, that I knew, uh, that started telling me about the person, and I didn't even know they knew this person personally. I was a little surprised by that, as a matter of fact. But as they were explaining and letting me know who this person was, it didn't match with what my own construct of this person was that I had reaffirmed day in and day out, year after year, for some reason, what I initially felt was just that was my facts, based on nothing. Not even aware that it's based on nothing, just not thinking about it at all, just this was a fact. And it really kind of threw me. And then eventually they took me to meet this person. And I found out they were a wonderful person who really took that money on a regular basis. The money that they were asking people for, without saying anything, they weren't raising money for charity or anything, but they took that money and always gave it to charity in the community. Like, it went to local people that needed it in the community. It went to, food banks and things like that, that he just did on his own. And he was on like a social assistance, but he did not use the money that he asked for himself, because he didn't need it. He had everything he needed. And it was really quite remarkable, because none of it was what I would have expected, and none of it was what I naturally projected onto him. And sadly, a few years ago, he passed, and that area of the city is very different now. It has a blank space where a wonderful human being used to be. And I just think it's really interesting how much our beliefs, whether they're based on anything or not, how strongly they can impact our life and our choices and our decisions. And I just thought it's really important to keep a more open mind. Now, at the same time I was learning that lesson, I was working in a salon down on Bank Street. It's now a Bell store, so it's long gone as a business. But there was I'm going to say, busker, who used to sit and play guitar in front of our store here and there on a semi-regular basis, enough for us to see them, recognize them, know that they were back. They never intruded on any businesses in the area, including our own. And so nobody had a problem with him being there or doing anything. Then one day he came and asked me, because he had a cast on his arm and he couldn't play to make the money, and he needed to borrow $20 for something to do with getting an ID or something, because he now needed to be able to get some social assistance of some kind, because he couldn't raise his own money by busking. And I thought, sure, I'll lend him $20. He said he'd pay it back in the next week or two. And I thought, well, that's fine. And I didn't see him again. And I felt very saddened by that. And I thought, oh man, humanity let me down. I know it was only over $20, but I thought, oh, humanity's let me down again. And then a month went by, 2 months went by, 3 months went by. You just kind of forget about that stuff. But in your head, the little taint on humanity is still there. Even though the situation's long gone, and, it was never really a huge impact based on the fact $20. You don't ever loan anybody something you can't afford to give away. That's my rule, and it's a smart one. And every single time that I have violated my own rule, I have regretted it. So it's a pretty consistent learning things. So never lend something you can't afford to just lose. But I digress again. So a year goes by, and I'm still working in the salon, and this fellow comes in, the fellow I hadn't seen in over a year, and he was up to me and he said, "I'm really, really sorry." And he told me what happened, and he couldn't do anything about it. This was the first chance he had to get back, and he gave me the $20. After all that time and after all that, I was so sure he just did that so he could scam $20 from me, and it all turned out to be no. He was really grateful. It really helped him. He used it for what it was supposed to be used for. He could not get back to get it to me sooner than he did, and he did it, and he still got it back to me. And I was like, wow, talk about restoring some faith in humanity. So a lot of times the perceptions we have that are negative aren't even warranted. And it makes it a lot easier to change one's mind about situations if you don't hang on to things as fact that never were. And I just hope that that is a little bit of food for thought. Now, I'm sitting here because I'm going to do a bit of a makeup video, but I can't really talk right now and do that. I have to kind of get back into the swing of trying to do those things. So this was kind of an important topic that I wanted to share with everyone. And I hope that it creates some food for thought, maybe discussions to have with people. I think it's important. A lot of the work that I do is designed to trigger discussions. Even if people find something distasteful, I want to trigger discussions about situations. Everybody's situation is different, but everybody can relate to other things. The things that I can relate with all of you about would be different on an individual basis than if we were just trying to come up with a commonality as a group. Sometimes that's harder, which is why I have difficulty with humanity, but I really do love and appreciate people. It's a weird distinction of, right, en masse, things are different than an individual by individual basis. And I find that's the same thing with my beliefs. I need to make sure that my beliefs at all time are based on knowledge and not some opinion or feeling I had over something that I haven't allowed to change, right? It's work. It takes effort to be open-minded if you are not accustomed to it. I think some people just are open-minded in general, but sometimes they fall under the category of naive, and that's, I think, the opposite end of the same spectrum. And I think it's important to be aware, and for that awareness to be based on reality and fact and not our opinions about what those facts say to us or make us feel. Because my feelings about what somebody else's choices are is irrelevant. Okay, this might be a somewhat distasteful conversation, but I also think it's an important one where I learned something similar. And even now it's hard for me to think about too much. But as a gay man, I was very, very naive about many things culturally and how there was almost a gay underworld to where I lived that I knew nothing about. And like, I didn't even have an awareness that it existed. Yet I'd been open for so many years. So, but there was a culture to it that I didn't know. I just was what I was, and just like I am now, I am who I am. I don't always even know what that means, and other people go, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, it's me. It's like, it's just who I am. And I would come across things when the internet was something first available to me, and there were like message boards and things of that nature. And I'd see people mention stuff that was virtually a foreign language to me. And then I had met somebody online, just as a person online, never met them in person, didn't know them, but they were an online friend. And they were somebody that I trusted to be able to explain these things to me because they seemed to know. And when I would ask, they would explain in a very neutral, factual way, this is what this is. And I remember being shocked by a lot of it, surprised that some of it existed in a good way. And I learned a lot from this person. And then after about a year and a half of knowing this person, certain factual information that I was not privy to before, they revealed to me. And it was very hard for me to think of them the same way again. And I'm going to, as delicately as I can, explain what I've learned from him. He was into scat play, which is excrement. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to think about it too much. It's a personal problem of mine. It's just not something I like to think about. It's certainly not something I think is sexy in any way, but that's my thing, and that's all it needs to be. So when this person explained to me that that's what they were into, I certainly didn't understand. I don't think I do now, even with their explanation of how that was intimacy. And again, don't want to think about it too much. But they were very, very honest and factual, and I didn't really accept that as somebody I could know. And as time went by, I started to realize and think, I've had friends in the past that feel exactly the same way about my being gay. And they have accepted me. And I think they should accept me. I don't see any reason why anyone shouldn't accept me. It's just, I just am. Just as they just are. And I accept them as they are. And I thought, why am I not accepting this person as they are? They have not asked me to participate. They have not dragged me into it. They did not go out of their way to let me know this is who they are. You know, it is just who they are. And then I thought, oh my gosh, you hypocrite. I expect people to accept me for being me, and I could not accept this person for being them. And I sought them out, and I apologized. I told them what I learned. And it was nice to reconnect that way, and we've gone our separate ways since. It's like they were who they were in my life at the time, and I'm grateful for that. And I wanted them to learn what else they helped teach me, even though they didn't realize they were. And then we both had, I guess, our closure, and that was it. We weren't connected in a way that required us to stay friends. And yeah, it's interesting the way that if we allow ourselves to learn, we can learn how to learn even more. And I think that's the purpose of school. School isn't there just to teach you facts and numbers. It's, there to teach you how to learn. And the more that is restricted, the harder it is to teach children how to learn. And I don't know if that's the end goal of somebody that can control that kind of thing. Because the best teachers are the ones that know how to work with each student to get them to learn in their own way, whatever it is that they're learning. Because eventually, as you learn how to learn, you can start applying that to other areas of life. But if you don't know how to do that, you can't. And that's enough of this diatribe for now, I believe. So I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And until the next time, as always, take care of yourselves and each other.